Business lessons from Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers' worst-to-first turnaround. When the losingest team in college football history can win a national title, there are leadership lessons every business can learn to be why now. We have all learned there is a new sheriff in the world of college football. No, not my beloved alma mater, Michigan. Not other blue bloods like Alabama, Georgia, Texas, or Ohio State. It is the team that, up until 2 years ago, had more losses than any other program in history, the Indiana Hoosiers. In just 2 years since the hiring of their head coach, Curt Cignetti, they sit alone atop college football as the 16-0 national champion this year, including 3 wins over teams ranked in the top 5, tripling such top 5 ranked wins in their entire 138-year history. How was this even possible? This worst-to-first story will go down as one of the greatest stories in college football history. Let's dissect this further, as there are a lot of valuable business lessons to be gleaned here for your businesses. To summarize how this amazing turnaround happened for Indiana, it came down to the following things. Market conditions changed to their benefit. Ownership embraced the desire to win at football. They hired a smart leader. The leader had a clear vision of the type of team he wanted to recruit. And lastly, they all bought into the vision, believing the impossible was actually possible, and put in the hard work to make it happen. Market conditions changed in college football. 2 things happened in college football in the last couple of years that forever changed the sport. 1, the NCAA allowed players to get paid through name, image, and likeness deals. And 2, the NCAA allowed players to freely transfer between teams through the transfer portal. Paying the players meant that the schools with large alumni bases, Indiana is the largest, and wealthy alumni like Mark Cuban at Indiana could amass large sums of money to put them on a more even footing with the historical blue blood programs. The transfer portal enabled players to move between teams if they didn't feel they were getting enough playing time or didn't like their coaches, which meant the historically second and third string players at the blue blood programs were now starting at the other schools that were willing to pay for their services. These changes became the big equalizer in college football. I don't like a lot of these changes as it feels like the Wild West right now with limited guardrails being imposed by the NCAA. But these changes were earth-shattering for the sport. Instead of a season ending with 4 to 5 teams that were capable of winning a playoff and the championship, now there were 15 to 20 teams that were good enough to go on a run and win a championship. This created more parity than ever before. As we apply this to our businesses, think of what artificial intelligence is doing in the workplace. It is the great equalizer, putting both big companies and small startups on a more equal footing. Your startup's market conditions have materially changed in the last couple of years. How are you going to capitalize on that? Ownership embraced the desire to win. Indiana was never really considered a football school. On the other hand, with their success under coaches like Bobby Knight and players like Isaiah Thomas and Steve Alford, they were always considered a basketball school. But basketball isn't where the lion's share of athletic revenues is generated. They come from football. And Indiana was never going to truly maximize their athletic revenues until they set a clear goal of being successful in football. University President Pamela Whitten and Athletic Director Scott Dolson made that a priority and began to invest accordingly. What is the North Star vision for your business, and are you making the appropriate investments to enable you to hit that target? If not, you will never get there. They hired a smart leader. Not many college football fans had heard of Curt Cignetti before his time at Indiana. His name was never mentioned in the list of college football's great coaches, like Kirby Smart at Georgia, Ryan Day at Ohio State, or Dabo Swinney at Clemson. But when Indiana's leadership started to research him, it was clear he was a winner wherever he went. In 2009, he was on Nick Saban's coaching staff at Alabama that won a national championship, and who better to learn from than college football's greatest coach of all time. Between 2011 to 16, he turned around a struggling IUP program into a perennial conference champion. In 2019, he led James Madison to the FCS Division II national championship. When Curt Cignetti famously told the media, "I win. Google me," he wasn't kidding. The business lesson here is to hire smartly. It isn't always the person with the biggest brand logos on their resume or the most attention that will be the best hire. Do your homework, peel back the layers of the onion, and you may find your own diamond in the rough. They recruited the right type of players. Most college football recruiting classes are ranked by how many five-star high school recruits a team signs. Indiana didn't have a single five-star recruit on the roster that won the national championship. Cignetti took a different approach and made 3 smart moves. First, he brought roughly 15 players with him from James Madison when he took the Indiana job, experienced players who had already won a national championship and could help establish that same winning mindset in a new locker room. Second, he leaned heavily on the transfer portal rather than high school recruiting, preferring proven college players over untested high school prospects. Third, he targeted players who shared his chip-on-the-shoulder mentality, under-recruited and underappreciated athletes eager to prove themselves, like quarterback Fernando Mendoza, who went on to win the Heisman Trophy and defeat his hometown team, Miami, which hadn't even considered him good enough to walk on. It turned out to be a powerful recipe for success. The same holds true for your business. People really matter. Find the experienced SD